Hello everyone, welcome to Toppers Roundtable at Fortune IAS Academy. Today we have with us 7 candidates who cleared the Civil Services examination in their first attempt itself. Without much further ado, let us welcome them to this discussion. It's a common misconception or a myth that it is close to impossible to crack civil services in the first attempt, but all 7 of you have achieved this. So, how did you guys do this? Did nobody tell you that you are not supposed to crack it in the first attempt?
Sir, there is a perception, as you said, that the first attempt you are supposed to know the gist of the exam, it is to know the crux of the exam. But I am a person who is of the opinion that the first attempt is going to be your best attempt, because there are a lot of new things in front of you, there are a lot of things that you are not exposed to yet. So, that kind of a freshness gives you the motivation to learn, and it caters to your inquisitiveness that is inherently inside every human. So, the new things that you are learning, that gives you a push to learn. So, I am a person who my interview finished on January 9th. So, when I started preparing again for the next prelims, I could understand the change in my mindset. So, in the first attempt, during the initial preparation, I was very happy, very inquisitive, but in the second time when I started preparing, I was like, okay, this is all something that I have read at least once. So, that kind of a, I would not say boredom, but that kind of a difference is there in the preparation. So, I would say first attempt is definitely going to be your best attempt.
Coming to the first attempt, I think if we are well prepared for that, provided we also have a strategy which is well charted out, then I think the first attempt or the second attempt, it does not really matter as long as you are prepared there. But what happens is usually we find many aspirants going into the race without having a strong foundation per se. But once the foundation is set, once you have put in some honest, sincere effort there, the attempt does not really count there.
Actually, strategy matters a lot when you are trying to crack this exam in a very limited time, because you have to revise, you have to include maximum number of revisions, you have to effectively cover all the topics in a given amount of time, and that requires a very pinpointed strategy, that also requires consistent work. So, consistency and strategy can yield a lot of returns in a short time.
Sir, I think disciplined hard work can yield us good results even in our first attempt. Like Kasturi just mentioned, we should have an idea about the examination. So, if we have that and if we have the right guidance, I think it's possible.
Sir, I think the success in first attempt actually is a combination of our own efforts as well as good guidance. So, we should be ready to work hard in the direction that have been shown by our faculties or mentors, so whom themselves have invested years and have a lot of experience, which actually eases of all the time that is required and of resources also. So, I think this combination, when works well, helps us to achieve success in even first attempt itself.
Sir, just like Fabi mentioned, I think first attempt is the best attempt that you can give, because there is a certain amount of curiosity that we'll have. Like, I'm a person coming from science background, so I wasn't very familiar with polity or economy and all. So, there was this curiosity that I had in my mind, and also you do not have any previous baggage of the previous attempts. So, I think that will help us in first attempt. I think that will help really.
Just like Annie mentioned, for me also, I think that I had a childlike enthusiasm in me, because I was studying new things, I was meeting new people. So, that was something which gave me an advantage, and also I had a feeling in me that I had nothing to lose, that even if I do not get in this attempt, I would not lose anything, because I have invested very little. So, that is also something which has instilled confidence in me.
Hard work, or rather smart work, is more important than hard work. It's a very cliched phrase. Do you agree to this phrase? And if yes, what are some of the smart techniques that you have used to crack this in the first attempt?
Sir, I would agree to the statement, but with a minor tweak, that hard work and smart work is required. Either of it won't work. So, for me, one of the techniques that I have used was that So, in my option, which was sociology, I had to study a lot of scholars and what they said, and for a particular topic there would be a number of scholars. So, it is quite a task to remember who said what and also who all said something about a particular topic. So, I used to remember lyrics of songs, not just in Malayalam, but also in other languages also. So, I thought that it would be one of my strengths. So, I used to make parodies of famous songs, and then I used to I take out the lyrics and then I used to insert the name of the scholars and something what they said. So, to have a crux of it. So, I used to remember this song as the parody song. So, even while writing the exam, this song kept playing in my head. So, that was one of the smart works that I did.
Sir, my case was that I used to frame frameworks for most of the aspects, especially for subjects like disaster management. I would have a broad framework as well as IR. So, these kind of questions actually, frameworks actually help us to counter bouncer questions. So, we won't lose time and we would be able to present a generic answer that yields pretty much good. And also with regarding the optional aspect also, I used to combine maximum optional and general studies to a great extent, so that value addition can be used in maximum places. Also, I used to take up generic value addition points that can be quoted for different aspects. So, our burden of remembering facts and examples can be reduced. And also micro notes, so that we can easily revise it prior to exam or in between paper 1 and paper 2. So, these kind of aspects I used to do. I think this helped a lot to save time in the last time.
Many aspirants tend to equate life with UPSC preparation, and many people do not have time to pursue their hobbies. So, were you, people who cracked in the first attempt, able to pursue their hobbies and passions?
Actually, I was not a person who used to put in 10 hours of work every day. I used to aim more at consistency rather than the number of hours I used to put in. And I was also very balanced in my preparation, in the sense I took up a new hobby. I started learning swimming. I also used to go on walks in the museum in Trivandrum. I also kept up with my reading. I loved reading, so I used to read a lot. I also used to play the ukulele. So, my preparation never felt boring, in the sense that it was very holistic. I didn't lose my identity in the preparation deluge.
I think I missed that part because I was a person who used to read, but I had to put that aside during my preparation phase. But other than that, I used to listen to songs, but that I continued even while I prepared, because that was something that I used to do during my breaks.
Note making is another area in which there are multiple opinions available. Some say that you need to have digital notes for sure. Some say that physical copy, notebooks are the most effective method. Which are the strategies that you adopted for success?
Actually, I am not a person who is very comfortable with digital note making. So, whenever I take a note, I make sure that I write those notes. And other than that, I didn't get enough time to make notes. So, mostly I depended upon the class notes, and major notes that I have made is the value addition points that we can add, especially the statistics or case laws. So, these are the notes that I have made, and extensive note making I have actually started during my interview preparation, because during that period I had 4 notes with me full of many content. So, I would say that note making is a good habit, but given that you have to revise it also.
I was a person who mainly relied on the class notes, the lecture notes that I got from the class itself. And apart from that, I did not make any specific notes for prelims. It was the textbooks where I did all the highlighting and marking. And apart from that, for mains, just like Manjima said, I also made the value addition points, which would come in handy to write a mains answer. And for interview, I did not make any notes at all. And digitally also, I was not this person who was much more familiar with the digital devices. So, it was usually the handwritten notes itself.
Vineet, I think you made digital notes.
Yes, sir. Sir, I believe having notes is more important rather than the medium of notes as such. So, I actually customized the model for each stage. With regarding to prelims, I mainly relied on digital notes, because I felt easy revision aspects is important for prelims. So, I made mainly flowchart kind or like table based notes as well as pictorial notes. For mains, actually it was actually integration. Mostly I again used digital notes so that easily we can note down the value addition points and regarding aspects. We even used actually a Telegram group as a note aspect, because we combined and we used to put up the relevant value addition in the Telegram group, and that actually benefited as a note making device. And for final aspect, I actually relied on paper pen notes. This was because we can only take up the paper pen, I mean like the books into the final 𝗀𝗏𝗃𝗃 inside 𝗀𝗏𝗃𝗃. So that with that regard, I made everything in the paper pen format. So this customized according to the needs was my strategy. I think everyone can also adopt that according which suits them, meaning might not be able to look up digital devices for long. So they can go in for paper pen notes. So I think which suits them should be the best method.
Many aspirants have a doubt as to how to choose an optional, which could be one of the major decisions that decide whether they qualify this exam or not. So what were the parameters that you used to decide on your optional subject?
Sir, I am a person from a science background, so there was a perception that I should be choosing an optional which has some connect to science, but I eventually chose sociology. So I personally used a 4-pronged approach. This was said to me by my seniors. So it's not just your interest or your background that should drive the selection. The second major aspect is to see whether you can get good mentorship. So that is also very important. The third factor is the success ratio or the pass percentage. So in the rank list, how many people qualified with a particular optional is also very important. And the fourth one would be to see if the optional has a particular overlap. So for me, sociology had overlap with GS1 and GS2, Indian society in GS1 and social justice in GS2. And PSIR is also another optional which has complete overlap with GS2. So these are all the parameters that we have to look for.
Annie, I think you are a person who had a life sciences background and chose a subject, anthropology, which leveraged your background. How did it help you, your background and the optional selection?
Sir, I did MSc Zoology, so I'm from a science background. So I had some overlap between the portions I studied and in the anthropology syllabus. So that was one reason I chose anthropology. The other parameters I used were the same as Fabi mentioned right now, my interest and whether it is scoring, in recent years whether it's scoring or not. So at the end of the day it's an exam, so we have to consider that aspect too. So these are some of the factors that I also look into while I was choosing an optional.
If there is one singular piece of advice that you can give to aspirants who are starting off, what would it be? Urmila, I would start with you.
So from my experience, it's all about maintaining consistency and being confident. While we talk about maintaining consistency, it's about dividing the entire preparation into smaller chunks and doing whatever we can do on a day, on an everyday basis. When it comes about being confident, it's about finding our own ways to be confident. Continuing with the minimal resources that we have is something that makes you confident, do that. If you are a person who would want to add additional things towards the end of it, do that. So whatever works for you, find that and be confident in that.
Sir, I would like to say that always trust in yourself, your preparation aspect, because all the 3 stages demands this basically, be it prelims, it's your gut feeling that you develop after doing the mock test, and PYQs that matters at the D-Day. And again with mains, it's regarding how you present, the innovations that you bring about in your mains paper, that I think is really being rewarded by UPSC. And the final stage with interview also, it's how confident you are, how humble and how with clarity you present your thoughts, it's all that matters. So basic aspect is being trusting yourself, so I would like to advise.
Sir, I would say minimum resources and maximum revision, because the more you read, you'll have to revise all of that and you'll not get time. So eventually you'll end up forgetting everything. So I think go with the basic books, be the NCRTs, be the 𝗫𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃, the basic things you'll have to read and then revise it maximum times. I think that would be the thing I would suggest.
I would say that take this process as just another exam. Don't allow this exam to consume your mental peace or your peace of mind. So at the same time, it doesn't mean that you don't have to put the hard work. Do whatever that is possible for you from your part, and rest of the thing, I think if you are putting maximum effort, the output, it will genuinely follow that.
Sir, I would say there is no one particular strategy or one way to achieve this thing. So I would suggest you to find your own strengths and your own weakness. So for me, one of the strengths that I identified in myself was that I could remember numbers. Phone numbers I used to remember a lot. So I tried to cash in on that, and I tried to bring in a lot of statistics in my answer. And one weakness that I found of myself is that I cannot remember stuff that I just read. I have to write. So even for prelims, which was an MCQ based exam, I used to prepare extensive notes. So that was a weakness, and I used to and I understood that if I start writing, I could have I could remember it better. So that was a weakness that I identified, and I tried to convert it to my strength. So any aspirant who is coming into this exam, they have to find their own strengths, weakness, and try to convert their weakness into their strengths in some way possible.
So one thing that I've realized and that I would like to share with the aspirants is that there are no hard and fast rules when it comes to the examination, and it's all about how flexible and adaptable you can be as per what the situation demands. And also realizing that this is just an exam, just a part of life, and you are more important than the exam.
So one advice I would like to give is that there is no such thing as a perfect strategy or a perfect set of notes. It is all about you starting and you coming up with your own strategy, your own notes. So ultimately it is your effort that counts rather than going behind n number of topper videos and trying to copy their methods. So it is more important to start rather than spend a lot of time in the planning process of it.
Thank you everyone. Thank you for the valuable insights.
Fortune IAS Academy, more than just an academy.